Hey, this is Steven from LegitTechTutorials, and welcome to my new, season or third set of episodes. So my first set was the multi-shooter expansion control modules. My second one was the shredder, the reclaimer industrial style mini shredder. And this is my third one. This was a failed Kickstarter project on my quote-unquote company Kickstarter called CodeFlow. So now I'm going to bring CodeFlow into more LegitTechTutorials domain, so LegitTechTutorials will now handle that instead of the green engineers. And so a few people from the Kickstarter campaign were asking that this be made, and also that it was also going to be built for myself because I think it's a great idea and it would help myself personally to program and also help other people that are trying to program as well. So if you guys would go ahead and check out the Kickstarter campaign, go ahead. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to write. I have a Trello going up because I'm going to try to make this more organized than my other two Kickstarters. I'm not my other two Kickstarters. My other two product design series. My other two series. So this one's going to be more built around this Trello website, which basically I'm going to line everything that I'm going to do and all the feature sets I'm going to do on Trello here, so that way every single video we're going to go back to Trello and then see what we're working on that day, rather than just winging it. I'm still going to wing quite a bit of it, but go back on here and know what we need to do, what features we're looking to achieve that day, and what type of progress and due dates we're trying to hit. That being said, the main basis around this series, I'm going to call it, I'm calling it personally, not publicly, but personally I call it CodeFlow Fridays. So I'm going to spend 30 minutes. I'm thinking that I'm going to stick with a 30-minute video timeline rather than, I was thinking of going an hour. I might just split the difference and go 45 minutes, but I think 30 minutes is pretty good. We'll see how well this is organized, and if I could go for a full hour, we'll see if that's possible. But or maybe I'll just do a specific feature that I'm going to work on, and when I finish the feature I could stop. Or if it goes too far over, then stop there. So this video would just take as long as it takes to do what we're going to do. Okay, so gonna use Trello for all the feature sets, and all the stuff that we're going to work on are going to be across here. And then we're similar to how the UE4, Unreal Engine 4 roadmap is, kind of like this, really nice and organized. So I could go in, and also you could go in. This is going to be a public board. You could go in and see how the development goes. So I have something similar to this, very nice and organized, so we know what we're doing. And also on off days when it's not a Friday, I'll be able to add to it as well, and you guys also comment on it if you guys are looking to insist in asking for features that you think are relevant. Okay, so yes, it was a Kickstarter, had 8 people that funded on the $3 a piece or whatever, and so people have been asking for it, and I think it would be a great tool, so I'm gonna do some work on it, at least 30 minutes to an hour every week on Fridays, and then do a video on developing some software on. I did some games and a little bit of coding tutorials on LegitTechTutorials, but this time do some actual software development. Okay, so let's go ahead. For you guys that don't know what CodeFlow is, CodeFlow is basically a streamlined programming text editor. It is not a compiler, it's just a text editor. I'll have this video up on LegitTechTutorials, or you could go here on the Kickstarter. Just go into Kickstarter, type in CodeFlow, and then there's a video here at CodeFlow in depth, which is basically the video version of this description. So the main feature is this organizing and nav system. So basically what it is it's almost exactly like Trello, now that I thought about it the other day, is when you're coding, you set these blocks, right? And then inside of these blocks, when you click on these blocks, it will bring up the code version, or the code, it'll bring up the code that's in there. So basically you could lay out your program just like we're going to lay out the feature set right now on Trello. So you could lay out your program in these types of blocks exactly how Trello has it. So let's just say for a program, if you were programming something, again, this is some software to help programmers that are in, I'll explain who it's for later. But so you would have something like the main loop, physics calculations, or whatever. So each of these would be different methods, and these would be parts or segments, I call them, segments inside of the method. So when you're programming, instead of seeing that giant block of code, you see these small little blocks that segments are contained inside. So, and then these segments could be entire classes or methods within a class. So if you think about it, this could be a class and then this be a block, right? So it's basically an organizer. So you could have your code laid out really easily like this and then see exactly what each code piece does and then be able to navigate instantly to that piece. So I could just click on this and it would bring up my code in here, right? So if I had a giant, if I had a giant code base like this, and I was the only member on the team, and I was doing it myself, like I do on the Green Engineers as well as LegitTechTutorials, I do it all by myself. It's a lot easier to navigate through the code like this, because even I forget, even though I'm the only code writer, I even forget where I put stuff. So it'd be really nice to have something like this where I go in and know exactly where it is. Okay, I'm going to work on gameplay today, and there's one we're going to click, I'm in. Takes two, from this side over here, okay, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi. So it's like it takes 5 seconds to go over there and find the code I'm going to edit, get into the code, change it, and then another 5 seconds to jump from there to the next snippet of code I want to edit. Because at one time in a code base, you don't need that whole thing open. Because sometimes you write something at the beginning and you never touch it again. You write it at the beginning and you never touch it. It doesn't need to be there that you have to scroll through it each time. So that's what CodeFlow is for. And that's what this guy here is. I went and opened up a code base called Marlin, which runs which is basically the largest firmware for AVR microcontrollers, like the Arduino based stuff, Arduino Uno and Mega. And they have 2 million to 5 million lines of code somewhere. I'm going to say 2 million. I don't think 3 million, probably 2 million, 1 million lines of code. And I opened up some of their largest classes, and I timed how long it took me to read through the code base. And as you see, per class, the more the line isn't exactly linear. The more lines of code that you have, it doubles, triples, it's almost an exponential curve of how long it takes you to read through those lines of code. So instead, if you had a specific method in mind that you wanted to go and find and edit, that was only, so basically if you kept all your blocks in this size, it would take you a minimalist time to go through, find that segment that you want to edit and edit it, so it would never get out of hand. Because this is ridiculous for if you're just a one-person coder. If you have a giant team that is dedicated to each of these parts, it's different. But if you have one person and you have classes that are 2,000 lines in length, it's pretty difficult to handle scrolling through and finding each of those pieces to where that doesn't, your code base starts to not make any sense. So main thing is for time saving and organization, that's what CodeFlow is for. Okay, so that's all anchored around what I call the markup system. So the markup system, there's 4 tiers. Like I said, the full size file, basically the class is basically this is class. Or you could have the entire project. This is all change. You could all change it, but generally this is how it goes. So this would be like an entire class. So you have So I guess before this you would have a project, a class, and then a segment is a large piece inside of the file. So something like this. So this is from my multi-shooter firmware. And here are, this is basically something to draw on a TFT touchscreen. So this would be a segment. So this is the UI draw. So this will draw the UI for the automatic mode, not the manual mode. So this is the automatic mode. This basically just draws the identifiers, what the data is next to it. So there's DT and then there's a number next to it. So this is like a label. So this is drawing labels next to the numbers. That's all this does. So instead of scrolling through this thousands of times, which I never change really, this stays the same forever. So instead of scrolling through this, going through a giant code base every time, this is now put as a tile like this. So this now becomes a tile looking thing like this here, right? And then this is basically what it would display like that, but in a tile, right? And then the next one underneath is we have the action, which is a few lines of code that group together to do one action. I forgot to do a closing parenthesis on that, but that's okay. So like this right here is one action. All this does, all these 4 lines of code do is just write DT at a size 3 color white at this 2D coordinate system on a TFT touchscreen. So as you see here, this is draw DT TFT UI, and then you'd probably put the coordinates and then maybe the size, and then AA, draw AA on screen, draw TT on screen, draw TC on screen. And then so now we went from 16 lines, 4, 4, 4, 4, 16 lines down to 4 lines. So right there we cut our code base size in a quarter. And then so if you went on here, I probably wouldn't go to this. So the idea is that these kind of branch open, right? So what I mean by this is that these are nested. These are nested options. So for example, the first thing that would pop up is the segment. So when you're going through here, like let's just say that this was a program, which this would actually be a really nice way to model the program after for a prototype, is here would be like a segment. So you'd open this up and then it would have the actions in here. So it's a draw DT, draw DC, draw AA, draw AT. It would have those actions in there, and then you'd click on those actions and open up these actions to edit, right? So these are nested. So each of these are nested in the one before, are options within the other options. And then the big picture is to be able to take these 16 lines of code and file it all the way down to display as one line. So that's 1/16, right? I don't know what 1/16 off the top of my head is, but that's. So you just cut the size of your program down by 93%, 94% right there. So yeah, so it does that. And then another thing to say, pretty much one of the last things to say, is that it doesn't actually modify your original source code. It leaves your original source code the same. All this is this is just going to be a meta file. inside of your program that displays it this way. But if you went back to your original Java file or C++ file or C file or C# file, it would still be the same way that you left it. So all it's editing is a display option inside your program, inside of CodeFlow. Right? So it says, you know, that it does not that it does not modify your original file. And then the last piece, the last main feature, is that it goes back. If you have this option set up, it will go back into your main source code for people that don't have CodeFlow on your. If let's say you have a team of 2, 3, or 4, it would go back to your original source code and use these labels for your segments or actions and write them as comments next to this. So you go from this is what your original source code looks like, this is what it looks like. Well, it would kind of look like that. It would look like this first. So this would be here. All the way down to the segment. So it would just display the segment. But if you went back, if you had the automatic comments added, and you went back to your original source code, it would add this piece in here. It would add these labels that you added, so that if somebody didn't, very nicely like this, it would look very nice. It would add this automatically in there. So if anybody on your team that's attached to your Dropbox or your GitHub will be able to use it similarly to CodeFlow, but not nearly. CodeFlow would be a lot easier to use, but this would help your other teammates that don't have CodeFlow. So that is the main purpose of CodeFlow, is to be able to organize. And another good thing that it will be used for is what we're going to use it so I think I'm going to model it around Trello right now, is have it similar to this, because this is actually very nice. Is we're going to use it for similarly what we're going to do right now, and that is to design a skeleton of our program in here. So after we're done making CodeFlow, that's what we would use for future programs. We would go in and design the classes that we're going to have, the methods that we're going to have. In this case, we're going to design the file, the segments, and the actions that each piece is going to do, and then those are going to be made up as blocks. And then so we go in and edit those individually, so we never have to touch the source code at all, ever. We do all our editing inside of CodeFlow. Oh, another thing, when I said that it doesn't modify your source code, I mean when you add these labels. So you could go into so like you could click on the segment and then click on the action and then go in and modify the original source code, and then it will modify it. You could go in and modify this, it would go back to your file and modify your source code, rewrite that in your source code. So yeah, automatic comments, code navigator. So yeah, basically the navigation system is built in with a code editor, and I had 2 ideas of ways to navigate through the program. One being the mouse, and sort of like how Fusion does their dynamic menu system, where according to what you have selected, it will have a different menu system. Another one is just for a lot of hardcore programmers, they like to just use the keyboard. So to be able to navigate through the program without ever using a mouse would be really good. In order to navigate through these tiles, just by using the keyboard to navigate through this, and then hit enter or shift or something close to the WASD, probably use WASD to go around, and then shift or something to jump into one, and then be able to jump out and jump into another one without ever touching your mouse would be great. Okay, so what was CodeFlow originally built for? It was originally, and then of course, like I say here, basically these are my thoughts of who it's built for. Whenever you design a product, whoever picks up the product is sometimes not exactly who you originally imagined using it. Mainly for people that are doing open source coding that are generally smaller teams. And also it helps beginners be able to plan out their code base to be very efficient and easy to start. So they could spend a few days working on the skeleton and not have to spend more time later on down the line and just start editing. So it's really more beneficial as the members on your team get lower and lower. So if you have a 2-man team, 3-man team, 4-man team, or a 1-man team, it would really help compared to, I don't think it would help as much the larger the team got. But it could. It's possible. It could be good enough to where it, helps no matter what size team you have. But it's most powerful when you have 1 to 5 or 6 person team and you have a very large code base. So the less people that are on your team and the larger the code base, the better the software is for you. So originally when I designed it, it was envisioned for programming of Arduino or AVR or other projects where small libraries are used and where autocomplete functionality is not needed. So out of the box, it's not going to have autocomplete. So stuff that you're used to, what is it, something sense in, what is it called, Visual Studio, stuff like that where you hit period and then it brings up all the options you could do. This is not going to have that functionality because it's not a compiler. So again, CodeFlow is not a compiler. You're still going to have to use your normal toolchain compiler to compile this code. This is mainly for something that you are very familiar with. For example, Arduino or AVR. So if you're doing something like how Marlin's built or something like that, you're doing hard source code stuff, not necessarily game engine, like Unity or whatever. Alright, so another thing, CodeFlow, I'm going to build it on the Unity game engine because I really like it. It's a really nice game engine, multi-platform, and also I would like to be better at it for later projects, so I'm going to get some practice on it now. So it's going to be an entirely UI-based, quote-unquote, I'm using the quotations now, game, using Unity to build a UI software, basically some UI software. And I have a buddy that did something similar, and it's worked great for him. And he's using it for an enterprise project right now, so as controlling a product right now. So really cool, writing something in Unity and controlling an actual object. Alright, so yeah, so it's going to be built in Unity. The main thing is the markup system to increase efficiency on navigating through code and writing code for small businesses, for small groups or small teams that have very large code bases. And also it's going to be very similar to Trello here. Alright, so let's go ahead and add some stuff in the feature list. So I want to be able to so markup system, it needs to have a code editor. It needs to be able to do automatic comments. And that is pretty much okay. So just standard code editor, automatic comments, and the markup system. And now those are going to be basically the individual pieces here, as you see. the individual lists are going to be the features, and those are what I'm going to need to work on. And then as I add features, they'll come up as these features right here. But what I'm thinking of doing is actually having these being so this is in progress. Prototype. And this is finished. So basically what you'll be able to do is you just bring these over into the in progress, prototype, rough, and then into the finished. So as I work on things and come up with new features in the feature list, I'll be able to just drag them over and then say finished, and then this is finished features. So the basis idea is bringing these all the way over. So this is duplicated over here pretty much. And then inside each of these I'll be able to add due dates, attachment, other labels, which obviously only one member, stuff like that, adding comments of what this feature entails, stuff like that. And this is going to be navigate. Let's just do the navigation. Mouseless nav and gestures. Mouse gestures. Oops. So as this features drops down, we're going to complete those in Unity. But I do, like I said, also sorry for I'm still a little sick, so if my voice is kind of whacked out. But I'm liking how Trello has this set up. So let's go ahead and look a little further into Trello for a few minutes and then finish this video off. So what I'm saying is I think that this is originally what I imagined for Trello, and I believe I thought this up before I even knew what Trello was. Or maybe I saw this before I started working on, before I came up with the idea for CodeFlow. But this is originally what I imagined, but this was in the, no, they don't have it mapped. This was originally going to be controlled by the scroll wheel, but, so that's not mapped. But can you, yeah, so there you go. So this is with keyboard control, WASD doesn't work, but, and then enter, yeah, so that's exactly what I was planning on doing. So it's basically like Trello. It's basically like Trello. But when you hit enter, it opens up a code editor. And then also another thing is that Unity could also be as powered as a online. It could also be exported as an HTML5 app, so I could host it online if I did some server backbone to save your stuff, because you can't access local online, so you'd have to have a account. Yeah, I mean pretty much exactly how this has it set up. Where you have keyboard for navigation, and then you have each of these pieces So you could have a decently large size code base here with each of these being segments and being able to nav through these. And then be able to even this option would be nice if you had like the progress and or priority of each of the options that you're working on would also be very nice. So I think we'll model it after Trello for right now, and also do the backbone in Trello just to kind of see what they have here and then see if we get any feature ideas off of Trello itself. Alright, so that'll be pretty much it for this video. What I'll do is some more today, maybe right now. I'll mess around with Trello and I will add some more stuff to this so that so I learn more about Trello software, and also that we are ready to go and I know what I'm going to do in the next video. Of course, what I'm going to do in the next video is start up Unity and start up the project, but know exactly what I'm going to do and maybe establish some due dates to what to finish on the next Friday's video, and because I don't think that what I'm going to do next here is really really earning of a video showing me doing that, you know, setting up all this stuff. But when I go through that, hopefully I find out some things that I learned from Trello and maybe some stuff that I would like to integrate, because this is kind of what I want it to look like. So this is the idea of what CodeFlow would be. It would be kind of like a Trello but for coding. Alright, well that will be pretty much it for this video. Thanks for watching. This has been Steven from LegitTechTutorials. Thank you guys for watching. If you like videos in this series, please subscribe for videos and videos like it in this series and other series as well. See you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Take it easy. Peace.